Jeremy from Chain Out Podcast with your favorite co-host, Darryl. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, Jeremy. How are you doing? Are you all excited for episode 24?
You bet. 2 dozen cousin coming to you fresh from the oven.
That's awesome. What are you gonna do for 25?
I don't even know yet. Still trying to think about what I would do for 25. I think I got a week to figure it out, though,
It's
right?
okay. We can workshop that.
Yeah. Did you
So
notice I dressed a little bit for the occasion?
I did, yeah. You're looking very smart.
Yes. Well, we've got a special guest on tonight, and I wanted to make sure to dress appropriately. So
Yeah,
feels
you
like I might
did.
have overdressed a little.
Well, if you told me that, then I would have got dressed up as well. But
Well, you've got the button up and the collar and everything.
well, I guess so. Yeah, I would like to have
Yeah,
worn a tie though. I don't
looking
mind
pretty
wearing
fancy. Yeah,
ties.
this is too much. This is too much. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit too
Before
much.
before we kind of get to that though, you know what we should do? We should probably
What's
let the
that?
listeners what to expect in the show tonight.
Yeah, we have a great episode coming up tonight. I think so. We're going to give you an update on the EDGA bag tag. Who has number one? How many times has it changed hands? Who's defended it?
Yeah. We've also got a kind of special story that you'd like to tell from last week's Rundle League.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. The main point why everybody is here, we're going to talk to an awesome guest. We got Casey Hanemayer coming up on the show later on.
So excited for that, Darryl. And in the meantime, if you're out there listening to us throughout the episode, drop some questions in. And after the interview, we'll make sure to answer some listener questions.
Yeah. We will give you an update on a tournament that we just did this weekend, the AlBERGa Championships. How are
Yeah.
you
And
feeling, Jeremy?
well, a bit of a spoiler on this one is my arm might be a little sore still, Darryl.
Do you need some? You're
Oh,
okay?
yes.
It's the MA40 division. This is our sponsor. Not quite
Yeah. Not only
sponsored
does
yet,
it
but
smell good, it does wonders for those sore muscles.
it does the work.
Not a
Yeah,
sponsor.
not a sponsor.
The other thing we want to tell you guys about is we're right into the middle of registration season for tournaments, and there's a few registrations that are coming up that we'd like to let you know about.
Yeah. And then, as always, we're going to give a recap on all the Canadians and what they're up to on the Pro Tour south of the border.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Well, now that they know what's coming, let's get right into it. So let's go to
let's
that
do it.
number one tag update.
Yeah.
So last we left, Tim Plamondon, president of the Edmonton Disc Golf Association, the fourth EDGA member to have the tag this year, had the number one tag.
Yeah.
But last Thursday, he went up against Riley Douglas, and who's a nice Edmonton MPO player, for those of you who don't know, but I'm sure you do,
Yeah.
and Travis Bouchard. And the three of them went out there. And when Tim was challenging for the number one tag, he seemed to play amazing. It was like everything went in, nothing would chain out. It was perfect. But I think when I don't know if you've seen that number one tag, but I think it might be made out of something heavy because it felt like maybe he got weighed down in the
Yeah.
round there.
Things didn't really go his way.
No, we were watching his scores because we got there a little bit later, but you, me, and Mark were watching how it was going. And yeah, it just wasn't Tim's day, but he did fight back towards the end. He got a birdie and almost got Travis, but he didn't manage to beat Travis. So that meant he was bottom of the card.
Yeah.
And Riley had quite the surprise for him, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And when we've mentioned before on the update episode where Tim had mentioned that he was being a bit not overconfident, I guess, but being confident. So they ordered 500 tags from Innova, and I think Riley might have been keeping hold of it just for this exact purpose, because he was so graciously handing over tag number 499 to Mr. Plamondon. So I think that's probably the biggest swing in tag history, I think.
Yeah, that's hilarious, right? Like from tag number one to tag 499. So I guess Mr. Plamondon there is going to have some work to do, either to challenge again or to work his way back up. It would be great if you could go down as far as you wanted, but you could only go up like 100 at a time or something like that.
Yeah.
But I did message with Riley before the show here just to
Hmm.
get an idea if anything had happened. Did the tag change hands? But no, the tag is still in Riley's hands.
Right.
And he's actually got, because we can have up to 5 people on a card at Rundle League. So that's where
Yeah.
he's putting it up for competition to see if someone can take it out of his hands. So he's already got Greg Gatsky as one challenger.
Yeah.
And he's got Sean Heidebreck on there too. He's still looking for 2 more, but I'm thinking, you put like Gabe Piska on there. I don't know, maybe Terry Hong on there. You've got quite the card.
Yeah, that's a cream of the crop, the who's who of disc golfers on that card. But you know what? I don't care who they get to fill in those extra 2 spots, just as long as it's not an EDGA member. I think we can all
Yeah,
agree
that's
on that.
it.
It needs to stay away from the EDGA board at this point.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I think, if you're going to go up against Riley, or at least if it was me, the only way I'm going to have a shot to beat him is I would have had to have an ace in the round for sure. And that might, maybe do that. But
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Jeremy, because I don't know if I don't know if you've forgotten, but something memorable happened for me at Rundle League last weekend or last week. So as everybody knows, if you go to Rundle League, if you don't know, we start on hole 13,
hmm
with the parking lot being out of commission. So we start on hole 13. My round was going okay, 13 through to 18, back to 1. It was going okay. Nothing special was standing out. So it came to hole 5, which is just a short little pitch shot down the hill. Um, and I believe I was third, or maybe I might have even been last on the card. I think I
No, I
was
was
third on the
last.
card. Was I last on the card at that one?
No, you were third. I was
Oh,
last.
you was last. That's right, because you rolled down the hill. So yeah, everybody was throwing their upshots. I stepped up. There's only one disc it had to be. It had to be a Berg. So I pulled my new Glow Berg out of my bag. We had if I remember it correctly, I believe it was a crisp summer's evening. The wind was blowing in a easterly direction. It was blowing from right to left. I kind of stood there. I picked out my point. I looked at the sky. I kind of picked out my angles. I checked the wind. I leaned into it. I pulled I pulled the disc back. I sailed it up into the air. And you know what? Because it was me, it went into the air. It was coming down on a 45-degree angle. It was coming down, crashing into those chains. And it, of course, did not chain out. And I
That's
got my first
right.
ace. Yeah,
That
it was.
was so exciting.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I mean, it wasn't an ace run. I'll admit that. It wasn't like I was throwing it to try and get the ace. I was throwing it to obviously crash near the basket and skid and hopefully get away with the birdie. But took me by surprise. I think probably the first thing I knew that it went in was when you, Devin, and Mark kind of shouted that it went in, and I turned around, I high fived everybody, and it's. I don't know if anybody's ever had an ace. I mean, I've had one now, but
Yes, you have.
you don't know. There's that in between of what do I do? Do I run and get it? Do I stay? Do I grab my bag? Do I high five? What do I do? So yeah, as I was running down the fairway with my bag, Tim Plumondon, obviously because Rundle hole 13 is quite close to hole 5. They heard it go in. They heard the cheers. Tim came running up, and yeah, go check out Edmonton Disc Golf Association's Instagram, or check mine because it's on mine, or it might even be on Chain Out, I think.
Yeah, just look
Um,
for the guy wearing the beautiful shirt, right?
yeah, look for the guy wearing the ace shirt.
Yes. Well, that
Yeah,
was
so that
awesome,
was that was
Daryl.
pretty special. Yeah.
No, and congratulations, man. But it was also, would you say, should people start thinking now of what they should do once they get an ace so that they're prepared for it? Because there's that moment of shock, right? You put it in and then you're like, do I leave my bag? Do I run? What do I do?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think it's just one of those things that you just have to, I don't think you can be prepared for an ace. I think the fact that I didn't know what to do and I was like in state of shock, running backwards and forwards and not knowing. I mean, I think that's part of the enjoyment of getting an ace. At least getting your first ace. I know Tim had mentioned before about he's on number 26 and he threw it in. And he looked at Travis and kind of, yeah, okay, thanks, Travis. And then they carried on their conversation. But yes, the ace story came back again, Brendan. There you go. That was it. Now it's done.
You got to live off that, man. I don't know. You got to have a good run off it. What is it? A month worth of retelling?
A
And
month of retails? Okay.
I think because the story gets larger and larger each time. Like, I didn't even remember you doing all those things on the tee pad before you threw. I didn't realize in that 3 seconds you did so many things.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a master.
Well, Daryl, what's it looking like there? Are we ready for a guest?
No, I don't think so. Not just yet, Jeremy. I think we can keep on talking.
All right. Well, let's do that. Well, we do have Casey Hanemayer joining us tonight, and we're just kind of.
Can we just address some of the people in the chat? We just want to give
Oh,
them a
of
shout
course we
out.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have many listeners at the moment, but Brendan's in the chat, Sonia, and Kevin is in the chat as well.
Now,
If
that
anybody
would be
is just
everyone who's
joining,
actually
definitely
dropped a comment in there, hey?
give us a shout out in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Reminder for everyone to check out the Lakeland Open happening this fall at Kitscotty, Alberta, August 24th and 25th. Camping reservations are open now as well. So if you're looking for a tournament later on in the year, definitely go and check that one out. Is it
And
on
I'm
Disc
pretty
Golf Scene,
sure.
I'm assuming, Brendan?
Yeah, that one's on Disc Golf Scene. I'm following it. And I do know as well with that one, Darryl, is that it's actually, I believe, on a golf course. And I don't know, I don't think it's there all the time. I think it's like a pop-up on a golf course. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that's all the shout outs. Gavin just joined as well. So shout out to Gavin. But I think we should get on with the show, get on to what everybody's been waiting for, Jeremy.
All right. Well, let's do it. So let's give you an intro for our guest here before we bring him on. This week's guest is an MPO from Cranbrook, BC. He's been a PDGA member since 2014. In one of his first tournaments of the year this year, he scored a 1086 rated round. He also has his own tournament called Rocket Bear. He's sponsored by Prodigy Discs. And not only was he your Canadian Disc Golf Tour winner last year, he was also your Canadian Nationals champion. So we are so happy to have Casey Hanemayer on the show. So let's bring him in, Darryl. Casey.
Hey, Casey, how are you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you guys?
We're great, man. So excited to have you.
Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Well, Darryl, why don't you get it out of the way right away here?
Okay. So, as you probably remember, a few months ago, there was a trend on Instagram about posting photos of the first pros that you met. And although I didn't get a photo with you, you were the first pro that I met last year at the Edmonton Open. And I know when Eagle McMahon went to PEI for the Discmania Open, I bet he wasn't hanging around after the round had finished to help take down all the tents and stuff like that. So got to give you a shout out for that as well.
Yeah, no, I always like to help Gander when I went up there. So Calvin always let me stay at his house. So it's just something I thought I would do and help him out and take everything down. There's lots of stuff to move. So I helped him out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We were really impressed by Casey, like just how involved you were in the whole event, and just for our first experience, really getting a chance to see you and to see to us a pro, right? Like a top pro, our first time seeing one. And we're going, not only is this guy helping clean up with that stuff, he's winning tournaments, he's participating in what was probably, and we talked about this with Ben a couple of weeks ago, probably something that ended up being a lot longer than you thought it was in the Gander Slander, throwing discs down hole 18, trying to knock down some what seemed like large geese, but didn't feel like it when you guys were up there, I bet.
Mm-hmm. No, that's something that Calvin just does, right? Like he runs a great event, and just like little things like that, TDs really don't think about. So yeah, I hope from what Calvin's told me this year, the tournament's even going to be bigger. So I'm excited to come up there again and play.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. It's a big loss not having Gander Disc Golf in Edmonton anymore, but we know he's still around, and we'll hope to get him on the podcast soon to give him a chat.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And also too there, Casey, we know you've been busy, like even just recently. So it's just the tournament season's already started. You've been on a podcast. You're coming on a second podcast now. And are you finally kind of relaxed from this past weekend? Because you just had your Rocket Bear tournament happen, eh?
Yeah. So it's been a busy couple weeks. Yeah, so 3 weeks in a row now. We just do kind of our little Kootenai tournament swing here to kind of get the blood pumping, I guess you can say, for disc golf season. Andre Lauder from Park Pro, he kind of runs the 4 events and does a really good job of that. And I just run one of the events in the series, and I kind of use it as a thing to
Yep.
for thing for my tournament season, fundraiser, I guess you can say.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
And this year it's not as much of a fundraiser for touring. It's more of a fundraiser for when I'm going to Australia for Team Canada this year. So
Yeah, absolutely. Do you enjoy kind of like running? Is that something that you look to do more of, TDing and getting more involved in behind the scenes?
Oh yeah. I always have said is I never complain about a tournament, or you should never complain about a tournament unless you've TD'd an event.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
I would never run an event if I didn't like it. So it's just something that I do enjoy, and I like seeing people actually play. And
Right.
obviously, like, I want to be out there playing with them, but it's fun to watch everybody play as well.
So as a TD, this is a question for you. As a TD, what are you doing while they're playing? Are you trying to sneak out on the course and kind of follow them and watch as many groups as you can? Or is there always something to be doing while they're out actually on the course playing?
Well, this last weekend when I was doing Rocket Bear, I had to kind of set up the temp course that I had going on at a ball golf course here in Cranbrook.
Right.
So the first round, I kind of had to leave pretty much right after I sent everybody out. And then I had to go over to that temp course and get everything kind of teed up and ready for the second round. And then, the first day kind of TDs know it's like it's the most stressful day, right? Because you have to input all the scores, or you don't have to do that anymore, but you have to like make sure all the tee times are ready or the whole assignments and everything like that. And then the second day on the Sunday was pretty relaxing. So I went out and watched everybody a little bit and took a couple pictures and stuff like that. It was good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. So it's the 3rd year that you've done the Rocket Bear tournament, is it? Or
Correct. Yeah.
and are you seeing that it's growing every year, or being out in Cranbrook, is it kind of the same group that is in that area that comes out, or?
There's been a couple people have asked me that question, and I've kind of seen probably like 10 or 12 new people kind of every year. It is the regular crowd, but the reason why I'm running Rocket Bear is because I want people to come and play Wycliffe. Like, people don't understand how good of a course we have in Cranbrook. Like, it's out of the way. I understand that, but I want people to experience Wycliffe, and there is a reason why it is number 3 in Canada. So it's a very, very good course, and I want people to play it more and more.
Yeah, and as being MA40s like Darryl and I, we understood from talking about or hearing about Wycliffe that we're going to need to make sure we've got our cardio up before we go out there. Is that pretty much the case?
Yeah, it's like there's a reason why, like, the first tournament we had out there was called the Kootenay Up and Down, and it's still called that, right? So there's a lot of elevation change and a lot of shot shaping. So it's a very unique course, and you won't get a lot of you'll throw a different shot pretty much every hole on the course. So
yeah, it's not a boring course. So the name Rocket Bear, where did that come from? What's the origin behind that name?
So that's another Gander thing, actually. So when I first got that stamp done, Calvin from Gander wanted to get me a stamp, and he got a guy artist out of Edmonton. I can't remember his name right now. His name's something Robinson.
Okay.
So he has like a very unique style, like cartoony style of art, like very, very cool. And he approached me, and he's like, well, Calvin got me in touch, and he came to me, and he asked me what I wanted up for the design. And all I told him was like, I want a bear going fast. So it's like he came up with that stamp, the Rocket Bear stamp. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, and then
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, it just kind of went from there. And I was like, oh, I might as well name my tournament after the stamp. And it's just such a cool stamp. So that's why I've kept it for so long, and I want to keep it going.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, someone in our chat, Brendan McKinstry, who's the owner of BR Disc Golf. Is it Jared Robinson?
Jared, yeah.
Jared,
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So has that Rocket Bear now kind of taken, is it almost like a nickname now? Do you ever hear anybody shout now, "Go Rocket Bear" or anything while you're on the course? Or
Yeah, every once in a while. Mostly mostly that I hear is Chunks.
yes.
Like that used to be my like kind of like old nickname, and that's what my first custom discs were like the Chunks logo that I had on the disc. But no, every once in a while I do hear Rocket Bear. So yeah, no, that's good.
That's awesome. So we did look at the kind of the results of the tournament there, and it looks like on the MPO side, Noah and was it Bogdan that
Bogdan.
kind of tied for first at the end, so it made for an
Mhm.
exciting finish to the tournament.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Like it shouldn't been that close, and I'll say it for Noah. Like he had
Yeah.
4 strokes, and everybody in Alberta pretty much knows what he's kind of going through right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of had like a little bit of something happening on the final hole, which is bad luck.
Right.
And they were all tied up at the end of it, and then he won it on the third playoff hole. So yeah, everybody knows that Noah's a gamer and a battler. So I commend him for playing the playoff and winning it as well.
Yeah.
That just goes to show the respect that everybody on that card had as well, because I think I seen it on his Instagram. He mentioned that everybody was understanding and kind of gave him that extra time. They could see that he was kind of dwindling there towards the end, and I believe he took some time between the final hole and the playoffs as well. And so yeah, good to see some good spirit there towards the end as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we also got to see that little video, which gave us another feel for the course because we haven't seen a ton on it, but we saw his playoff shot that won him the round, and all it looked like was there's a shot going over the hill and going down, and we don't, obviously it got close, but we weren't able to tell. So
yeah, so that's one of our holes that, because Wycliffe's about 8 to 6 years old now, and last fall, right before the Kootenay Up and Down, we put in that new hole 3. So it's actually a double island hole. So I don't know actually what happened, but I'm assuming that Bogdan went out of bounds and then Noah put it in bounds twice and tapped in the birdie for the win. So it's
gotcha.
It's a hole that usually there's a massive amount of stroke separation on it. So I think it's a good addition to the course.
Yeah.
So to maybe help us out, because I'm not as familiar with the double island, does that mean that your drive has to land on an island and then your upshot also has to land on an island?
Yeah, exactly. So if you miss, how we kind of have done it is if you miss the first island, you go directly to a drop zone with a stroke penalty, and then either you lay up or go for the next island where it's just a green that's on the island or on an island.
Right.
And it's very, very tight. So it's like most of the people don't go for it from the drop zone. But also that drop zone shot just to lay up is really tough too. It's really, really tight hole. Yeah. It's nothing like you really see in Canada, especially on a wooded course. Whereas like you don't really need artificial OB. But because it's a par 4 and it's only like 400 and some feet, we were like, well, we kind of have to do something. So we just decided to make it a double island hole.
Wow.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, and then when you were saying you guys went into playoff, I know that the new playoff structure allows for TDs to either have the sudden death or to maybe pick a select amount of holes, I think up to 6, where they can play through, and then who has the best score after that. Did you set it up with 3 holes, or was it just a sudden death 1 hole at a time?
So that's kind of funny. That was my oversight. I actually didn't know that was a rule. And I looked it up and asked everybody after. They're like, yeah, you can actually do whatever you want. But I just told them, I was like, you guys play until you're done. Because I didn't think that was a rule anymore still, because that's what it used to be, right? It's like you just play until somebody wins a hole, right? So
Right.
that's what I told them. And it actually happened in MA1 as well in my tournament. So
Wow.
there was a playoff as well there. So yeah.
And how far did that one get? Did that get to the third hole as well?
Only hole one. Yeah.
Oh.
Only hole one.
Well, and then when we look too, is the FPO side looks like it's still kind of growing, but Christy Shields was able to take that down, which is good. She's a name that we're quite familiar with as we keep learning more and more about Canadian disc golf. 24 episodes in, we're starting to learn a lot of people there. But you talking about the difficulty with the double island, it kind of makes sense. As I went through all the scores there, I saw that nobody aced. So I'm guessing that Jesse from Parked Pro, his eagle, as well as Kylish's eagle, that's probably as close to an ace you're getting in a round at Wycliffe.
Yeah, I don't actually know if there has ever been an ace at Wycliffe in a tournament. I'm just trying to think. I don't think there has been. I've aced a hole out there once, and I know a couple other people have aced a couple other holes, but you feel really good if you get an ace out at Wycliffe. So
Yeah, I bet. Now, another thing too there, Casey, is that we watch a little bit Tour Life, and we listen to Brody talk about trophies and that kind of thing. Did you put any, what did you end up doing with trophies? Do you have a Rocket Bear trophy, or what did you come up with?
So I was thinking actually during the tournament. So it's funny, if you'll talk to a couple AMs in the tournament, I told them beforehand in my emails, I was like, sorry guys, like I didn't actually get trophies for the tournament. So what I did is I took everybody out for pizza on the Saturday night instead, because I legit just crossed my, or like, yeah, went way past me. And I didn't actually think about getting trophies. So that's what I did for everybody. I bought $400 worth of pizza and took everybody out on the Saturday night. But saying that, I do want to get like a hand carved bear or something. I think that would be really cool. Yeah. Maybe like, I don't know, like a foot tall or something. And then I think what I probably will do is kind of design something and have two rockets, so that it'll be for FPO, MPO, and FPO, as like you get to take rockets home, and then bring and pose with the bear, and then take the rockets home. So I that's kind of what I'm thinking for next year.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Putting some thought into this trophy, because like you say, a lot of trophies you see, as Brody always likes to say, that it's something that they just pulled out of the garage, right? So the fact that you're thinking about it, putting some thought into it, and give it some meaning to it, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, two things too with that, Casey, is being out there in BC. I know it's quite a ways up from where you are, but Chetwynd has that really big annual chainsaw carving contest. So maybe there's a way you can kind of connect in with them, and they could get that bear carved for you, is the one thought. And the other thought that I would say is, come on. Okay, Darryl, we could have a trophy, or we could go have pizza with Casey. Yeah. What do you think? What would you prefer?
Yeah, I know which one I'm picking.
Yeah, exactly.
There's more chance that I'm going to eat pizza than lift a trophy anyway.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we've kind of got you warmed up there. One of the things for any new guests on our show is we like to get them to tell us a little bit about how they got into disc golf, because a lot of our listeners know who you are, but some of them may not be as familiar. And we don't want to just ask you, hey, how'd you get into disc golf? So I come up with a little bit of a origin story for you, a possible one, kind of tied to maybe a movie I like or I know. So here's the one for you. So sit back, start thinking of it, and relax. Maybe you were visiting a friend for a work Christmas party, and that party was on the 30th floor of their office building, the Discotomi Plaza. Some ne'er-do-wells took over the party to try and break into a vault, and as everyone was being captured, you slipped away, luckily, with your 3 favorite discs. Methodically, you took out the bad guys one by one with this newfound expert disc throwing ability. Must have come through the stress of the situation. Some might have said you were a prodigy. In the end, you watched the leader fall from the tower and looked at him and said, "Yippee-ki-yay, mother discer." Ever since, you've been a top golfer in Canada, and everyone likes to say that you disc hard. But maybe that's not how you got into disc golf. So why don't you tell us how you did?
I like that. That was good. So yeah, actually, a lot of people have been asking me this too for some reason. I don't know. I guess it's obviously probably not well known, but my dad helped build the first course here in Cranbrook.
Oh.
So him and his probably like 10 to 15 buddies just went out and started putting baskets in the ground. When it was Tones at the college course here, and then they got the oldest baskets in Canada from Queen Elizabeth Park in Vancouver. So those got shipped to Cranbrook, and they were here for many years, probably 15 years. And then we have disc catchers at the college. But yeah, so that's how I got into disc golf. I started probably when I was like 12-ish, 10 or 12. Because the course at the college now is like 23, 24 years old. So, and
Wow.
yeah, I was really only playing like, I don't know, twice a summer. It was just something to do, right? Go like walk around, ride your bikes down to the course and throw some discs. So it wasn't ever anything competitive for me. It was just something to do during the summer. And then competitively, Ben Loggins actually got me into it. He's like, you're good. I only threw forehands at the time, forehand putts, everything. And yeah, he's just like, you need to come play a tournament, because we have an annual tournament here for our it's called Sam Steele Days.
Right.
And it was an annual tournament, and that's the only tournament I ever played in. I think I came second every year in like the amateur division. And then I played MA1 in, I can't remember, I think Fernie was my first tournament.
Yeah.
Like actual tournament. And then probably Big Bear, I think. I'm pretty sure Big Bear was. And then I think I played like 2 or 3 MA1 tournaments, and then I went straight to pro. So
Wow.
Nice.
I wanted to go back to when you were helping your dad build the course there. Excuse me. Was that when you were first getting out there? Was that kind of sneaking some of his discs out, getting on your bike and riding down there? Did you have your own discs at that time?
So like all the guys that built the course, they all played in Vancouver. They played when they went to school in Vancouver. So they knew all what it was. And there was a bunch of guys that probably had a bunch of discs. So I think I got given like 5 discs or 2 discs. I had a putter and a driver, I think, and that's it. And I just had those 2 discs, and I chucked them in my backpack and went to the course, and just played. So but like I said, I never really cared. Like it was just like something to do, right? It's just a casual thing. And I never thought it would ever amount to what it is now, what disc golf has become.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it was like, and then I remember like the first couple tournaments I was playing in, I was like, this is awesome. Like my competitive juices were flowing right away. I was like, I want to do this now. And I remember watching Paul Macbeth for the first time online, and it was just like, okay, this is actual thing, and people are making money off of this. So
this is what it can become.
fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And since then, from the start there, I still, even when you're saying they're throwing forehand putters, I'm like, that's amazing just on its own. My forehand putter is because I'm trapped around a tree trying to reach around it, right? But since then, you have been playing tons of tournaments. You're winning tournaments. You had so many big wins even last year, right? Like you were Spring Runoff, Edmonton Open, BC Open, finishing off with the Canadian Nationals Championship.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was last year one of your best years? Is that how you would feel about it, or what did you think about it?
I would say it was my most consistent. I never really felt disappointed in my play until until the last 2 tournaments of the year, actually last year. So yeah, last year definitely was my most consistent, and I felt like I played the best just overall for the whole summer. But like I said, having those 2 tournaments right at the end of the summer that I just left such a sour taste in my mouth. So I legit like didn't throw a disc for probably like 3 months after those 2 tournaments, just because I was so like disappointed in how I played. And I was just, I needed to step back as well though, because it was just like I played so much last summer. So I needed those 2 months just to kind of recoup, and then coming into this summer, it's like I feel like I'm ready to go, and I want to play again. It's like it's not like it's a chore to go out and play, so which feels good, because that's what it felt like after those 2 losses at the end of last summer.
What do you think? What do you put it down to? Why do you think those 2 tournaments were not your greatest? Like, is it something that you can identify and you've worked on to get better at, or is it just that you, like you said, like fatigue, just the amount of disc golf that you'd played at that point?
I think definitely the biggest thing was fatigue, just like disc golf, just too much
Overload.
Yeah, just overload, exactly. And I've played sports growing up, hockey, baseball, and I felt like that before, when you just play too much and it's just, you feel like that bit of burnout, right?
Yeah.
And then that's legit what it felt like. I was just like, I went to the tournaments, but my head wasn't in it, and I knew that, and I shouldn't have went, but just because they were both kind of the bigger ones, like my home tournament, was the one of them. And then the one at Clearwater, which is going to be Canadian Nationals this year.
Yeah.
So this year my schedule is a little lighter. So I should be ready to go when it comes to the end of the season this year.
Yeah. Nice. Well, and I could see too, Casey, like you went out to Ontario to play Foxwood. You went down for USDGC, if I'm right on that. And then you also went out and played in Sweden as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how are you not burned out with all that going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was, when you had gone out to Sweden, was that your first time going to Europe? I think you've done a couple other events, but was that your first time to Sweden?
Yeah, that was my first time to Sweden. That is the first like Swedish tournament I played in as well. First European tournament I played in as well. I played in the 2 World Championships in Croatia and Estonia, Team World Championships. But I never played in just a singles tournament in Europe. But it's funny because everybody was asked, is like, what is Sweden like? And I was like, well, it's pretty much like going to Vancouver Island. It's like like humid, warm, and rainy, right? It's like it has that kind of same feel. A lot of green foliage everywhere. So it wasn't really huge difference. Like it wasn't like super hot or anything like that, right? It was just very similar.
Yeah. So
who did you go out there? Who did you go out there with?
Me and my fiance, actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you travel, or did you kind of buddy up with any other people out there that you might have known on the tour?
Not really. Me and my fiance just kind of went all over, just traveled around, checked out Sweden.
Right.
Yeah, I saw Thomas there. We got a couple rounds in together, but I didn't really buddy up. Me and my fiance kind of just made a little trip out of it and went around Sweden. So that was fun.
Yeah.
So would you recommend it as a place to go to if you were going for a disc golf trip? Like obviously you and your fiance went. So if I was trying to convince my wife to travel in disc golf with me, is that a good spot to go?
I would say so. Yeah, they're kind of in the same boat as us, and like they have a lot of room and not as much population, right? So it's like they have a lot of room for disc golf courses, and they're trying to catch up to Finland to put in more courses all the time. I've never been to Finland, but obviously everybody knows that they have the most courses out of anybody per capita. So I would say probably go to Finland if you want to play a course every single day, or go to Sweden if you just kind of want to travel around and play a couple really, really good courses. But that's up to you. I'm not going to put anything. I'm not going to say anything, but yeah, Sweden was very beautiful. It was very similar to Canada.
Well, that's the good thing about Europe, Jeremy. I'm from England, so I know I don't know about Europe, but I know kind of, I know the destination and the distances and things like that. So, you can be in Sweden one day, you can go to Finland the next day, you can go to Germany, Spain, you can go all around Europe. It's
Mhm.
not the big travel like it is over here in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. Now, also with you winning, like I know you're connected pretty good being in Cranbrook there with Jesse and Andre and with Park Pro and that, and they put on the Canadian Disc Golf Tour for the first year last year. You made it out to 5 of the 8 events, which is amazing. That's the most, I think, when Darryl and I looked, any player got out to. Was that important to you last year, was to support that event and help make it a tour in Canada?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I want them to succeed like so badly, right? Like Jesse, yeah, Andre and Matt just have done like nobody else would try to do this, right? And
No.
it's very similar. It was very similar to kind of when Jomez was just like, we're gonna try this crazy thing and try to film all the some pro tour events, right? Or all the national events when the disc golf pro tour was kind of just starting out, right? Like they had a kind of a foothold, but they really never had a following, right? And the only reason that disc golf has gotten so big is because of media and Jomez, right? So I I I want Andre and Park Pro and Matt to succeed. And it's going to be tough, right? Like and it's because it's Canada, and like you guys said, everything is so spread out, right? They're trying to do a tournament in each province, right?
Mhm.
Quebec, Ontario, and then so on and so forth, the West Coast. So we'll see. I want them to succeed. Yeah, I want them to succeed. And this year they've got more help from the TDs that the tournaments that they're going to. So hopefully it just gets bigger and better from now.
Mhm. How important do you think it is to disc golf in Canada to have the Park Pro coverage and the Canadian Disc Golf Tour in general? Just bringing everybody, like you said, hopefully getting a tournament and coverage from every province. It's just going to spread the sport and grow the sport immensely.
For sure. Yeah, I like yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just so like it is so big,
Yeah.
and it shows what kind of talent we do have in the country, right? It's
Yeah.
like obviously some of the guys in Ontario won't be able to make it to Canadian Nationals this year, which is disappointing. If anybody's watched the Park Pro podcast, me and Colleen talked about that, and we were kind of disappointed in all the guys from Ontario that haven't signed up. But and then that's another thing is there's just so many tournaments now, right? It's like people can just pick and choose, right, what to go to. So we'll see. I obviously they're not going to be hurting for players up in Clearwater for Canadian Nationals this year. Like I'm pretty sure there's like 100 people on the wait list almost already. So but like I said, the talent, right, is I wish every top pro in Canada was there, but you can't always get what you want, I guess. So
Well, and I think too, Casey, put a feather in your hat. And Colleen is coming, is she? Is she planning on? Yeah, she's not doing the diameter, so she's coming. So you two are there. You guys are kind of ruling the roost when it comes to Canadian disc golf right now. So maybe there's just a little bit of fear there too. And then when you start saying, well, Sophia's probably going to come up and Christy's going to come up, and you've just got, there's so much talent out here in Western Canada that, it's a big trek, but the Easterners are going to come out here. It's going to be an experience that they've never had. And we all know that. But I think, I grew up in Ontario. So let me put it quick this way. As I grew up in Ontario, and back then growing up, Western Canada was just this thing beyond the mountains. That's all it was. You didn't have a view of it at all as you were growing up. But then when you come out here, you realize there's nowhere else you want to be in Canada. It's out west or nowhere in my mind. But So now the other thing we've been talking about, Darryl and I, was that, now that this Canadian Disc Golf Pro Tour that the boys have put together is here, we also noticed was last year, we started to see some players coming up from the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So Carter Aarons came up to the BC Open. Raven Klein came up for nationals. So we were starting to see some names. Greg Barsby is actually signed up for Foxwood. I don't know if he's going to make it up this year. that's great to see. And we saw the PEI, the Discmania one up there. And of course, the Discmania players came up because that was probably part of their sponsorship. But what do you think about the Canadian tournaments that we have now? What would be the one that you would pick if you said, this is the tournament to put on the Pro Tour? Pros would come up, they'd realize what's in Canada, and then they'd really know that it is a place and a destination to come to.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I'm biased, but just because I think like Wycliffe in Cranbrook is probably, is one of the top courses. I obviously want pro players to come and play it, right? Because I know guys who can throw far, they'll just shred that course. And I just want to see it once, right? I want them to come up and just like absolutely annihilate, like shoot 14, 15 down, right? I do want to see that. So, but yeah, like a tournament that, like, obviously it's going to be tough to get them up here if there's not a bunch of money, right? Like that is the kind of the biggest thing now that attracts players. So there's a tournament actually that is in Sandpoint, Idaho. A guy built Caliber disc golf.
Right.
It's called High Country Open, and there's a bunch of added cash, and his 2 courses that he's built on his property are absolutely unbelievable. It's only an hour and a half from my house in Cranbrook here. So yeah, I think that is the biggest thing is people need to know that the courses are really, really good and there's lots of money, right? That is really the only way you'll get pros to come up and play. That's obviously my opinion. You might be able to pull a guy here and there, maybe, but I really don't know what tournament the pros should come up and play. Like obviously Diameter, he's trying to make it so on that East Coast swing, they can kind of come up and hit that one and then go back down right away, right? So again, it probably has to be a course that's right on the border. That's they don't have to drive very far. And that was a big thing for all the guys that came up to the Discmania tournament last year, is like it was too far of a drive for them, like to get past the border, across the bridge, all the way to the PEI, and then all the way back down, right? So,
and that's the other kind of roadblock as well, is they have to schedule the tournament in Canada in between tournaments it's happening on the Pro Tour, right? There's no point having you can have a great tournament, but if it's on the same weekend as MVP Open or name any tournament, you're just not going to get the people coming up for it. So scheduling, added cash, and distance to the border. So it makes it tough.
Well, the other thing too, Casey, maybe is that I know you're going down to High Country to play this year. Maybe when you're down there, just on that last day, you say, hey, it's only an hour and a half up the road. I really want to show you this course, and whoever's down there, maybe bring a few up, and they can be there and back within a day. And then they get to see, okay, this Caliber course is amazing. And then this Wycliffe course is amazing. Yeah, I'm coming up next year. I'm going to go check some more courses out up there. Cause I've played NIPICA as well. And there's so many good courses all in the region there, right?
Yeah, we're super lucky for what we have here. Like obviously, like Wycliffe and NIPICA are like the most difficult, right? And that's kind of the thing now, is like I love that a lot of disc golfers we want to get away from the park course, right? We don't want to play on a ball golf course. We want that like super technical, tough course that we want to play every single weekend, right? So it's good to see that. But I would hope that people come up all the time to play Wycliffe, just because it'd be so much fun to have pros here and play it. So,
Darryl, I think our list just got a little longer, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, add it to the list, Jeremy.
Yeah. Well, with your tournament plans for 2024, Casey, we noticed that, you go back to some of the tournaments that you have won at before. You've also got the Fernie tourney, as you said, was your first PDGA tournament that you participated in, but yet it's still got a place in the schedule for you. How do you pick your tournaments for the year? Is there some sentimental value, or do you want to defend your win from last year, or what's your thought process behind it?
This year it's really kind of travel for me. I'm probably going to be buying a house here pretty soon. So the funds, the disc golf funds for traveling are going to be a little lighter this year. So, and obviously like going to Australia, that's not cheap, right? So I'm going to be going there as well. So yeah, this year it's really just kind of thinking about where I'm actually just pick and choosing, because last year I was just like, I'm going pretty much everywhere, right? Actually, the last 2 years before this year was just like, I'm going everywhere. I'm going to try to get to every Canadian tournament that I want to go to. And then, yeah, this year is just, yeah, it really comes down to the funds. The travel funds this year are way lighter. So I had to pick and choose what I'm going to.
Makes sense there.
You kind of touched on it there, and you spoke about it earlier on. Kind of want to look forward to the end of the year when when we're all going to be getting ready for the colder months of the year. You're going to be heading down to Australia in November, part of the World Team Disc Golf Championships. You mentioned before that you played in Croatia and Estonia. What are you expecting to get out of the Australia trip? Is that the first time you've been to Australia?
Yeah, that is the first time I've been to Australia. Yeah, I've never been to New Zealand, any of the countries on that side. I've been to the Philippines. No, Thailand. I've been to Thailand.
Right.
But yeah, nowhere down on that side.
Maybe your third team Canada representing.
Yep. Yeah, I really don't know what to expect. Because Craig Sheether, he's Australian, right? He's the team captain. He knows, and he's just telling us, he's like, be prepared for hot weather. That's it. He's just like, be ready, right? I don't know if a lot of people have heard that story when Australia was running kind of their Pro Tour stuff.
Yeah.
Like back, I don't know how long ago it was, but I always will remember this story. Is Paul Macbeth climatized himself to go play in Australia for however long he was there, the month. He wore like 4 sweatshirts when he was training in California. Wow. So he just like, he pre-trained, he climatized himself, and then he went there, and I think he won like 3 out of the 4 events. Yeah. When they had the Australian tour there. Yeah.
So you're taking some tips from that? You're starting to layer up?
Maybe. Yeah, I might do that.
Get in the sauna.
That's a big commitment, but I like I said, it's probably not the worst idea, right? Like to climatize, because it's supposed to be, I think Craig said it's supposed to be like 38 degrees with like 98% humidity. So it's gonna be hot.
And how long are you going there? Obviously, when Paul went, he went for a little bit longer. How long do you expect to be in Australia?
Right now, my flight is 2.5 weeks, so I'll be there for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, by the time you get there, like you say, acclimatize, get used to the time change and things like that. Yeah. We want you all fresh for the tournament there. Yeah, you mentioned that you're on the team. I don't know if we need to go through the whole team here, but we got a lot of people that you recognize.
It's a who's who of Canada, isn't it, Darryl?
I mean, Casey, you're on the team, obviously. Colleen McInnes, who we've had on the show before. Dave Ross, Hector Diakau. Yeah. Diakau. Karen Martel, Christy Lee, Max and Noah, Sophia Donecki.
I actually don't know. So
I've heard it pronounced Donecki. Yeah.
I think Sophia. It's Donecki. Yeah.
Donecki. Yeah. Stuart McKissick, Thomas Gilbert's also going, and like you said, Craig Sheether, he's the captain there as well. And then a couple of alternates as well. Chloe Winter, Miguel Alvarado, who's also been on the show. Thomas Humes, and Edmonton's own Jeremy Gauthier is a stand-in as well.
Yeah, like, would you think out of the teams that have gone so far, is this probably our most stacked team that's going?
I would say so. We are very top heavy this year, and I would give a lot of props to Craig, kind of pumping everybody. Is like, he wants everybody to go to this one, right? And I think it's more of a thing for him too, right? He wants to win in Australia, so
yes,
yeah.
No, it'll be fun if we can do something special down there.
Yeah.
Well, and
hopefully you can repeat the success that Team Canada had at the Pan American Games last year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Team Canada taking home the win there.
Yeah. With all that prep work too, Casey, from Craig, he's made sure everybody's really clear, because I think I had to look at a map there, and you've got Sydney and the Opera House, and you go koalas and kangaroos, but then there's desert and Perth. Is that kind of what we're looking at? And does everybody knows they're getting into that?
Yeah. No, that's what he said, because like the Perth is like the pretty high up too, right? So it is the desert high of Australia. So yeah, he's told everybody how it's going to be, and everybody should know what to expect when we head over there.
Nice. I've done my research on the tournament, but one question I have for you, I'm not sure if you know the answer. But doing my research, I noticed that every year we're just increasing the amount of teams that are participating. And you mentioned back in Estonia there were 17 teams. Last year in Croatia, there's 25 teams there, where Team Canada took down third. Do you know how many teams are going to be there this year in Australia? Has it been confirmed?
I'm pretty sure it's already over 25. Yeah.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it is, but yeah, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's already over 25. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you mentioned
great.
also, sorry, Jeremy.
No, I was just saying that's just amazing to see that growth out of the event.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about the Rocket Bear tournament there, and the other tournaments were all kind of fundraising, not so much for your tour, but for your travel abroad there to represent Team Canada. If anybody wants to support there, you can go to Disc Republic, because you have the disc sets available there for purchase, which supports Team Canada, right?
For sure. Yeah, they're going to be, I don't know how long they're going to be on there for, but the pre-sale was on there, to get all the discs. And then we're going to be having a bunch of apparel coming out as well for Team Canada. So watch out for that.
I do like a jersey.
We do. We're going to be at that point, Darryl, where we're going to have more jerseys than days in a week before we know it.
There's plenty of
months. And then when the Rocket Bear one comes out, what are we going to do then?
Well, we always say we like to support Canadian. We like to support local. So
yeah.
Well, I did look for a Casey. Is it PA3 that you had your Nationals disc?
Yeah. So I had a P Model S and a A3.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I did look, but they were sold out.
I don't actually. I think they might actually be sold out of all of them now. So because they were on Disc Republic, and then they were on the Prodigy site as well, the Prodigy Canada site. But I haven't looked in a while, so they might be sold out fully. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Casey, we'd be remiss if we didn't tap into your professional mindset, because one of the things for us as amateurs and a lot of our listeners, and even the ones who are just entering FPO and MPO, we have the way we do things, but we want to know kind of how do you do things. So we're going to keep it easy with just one question, but what we wanted to talk about was kind of when it comes to tournament season now, and you're going through a regular week and it's practicing, like Darryl and I, we go to league on Thursday. We play maybe a practice round on Saturday if we can squeeze in a putting practice, something like that. But how do you actually plan and divide up your weeks on how you're practicing? Like, I'm doing putting, I'm doing field work, I'm working out in the gym. Like, how do you set up a practice week during the season?
So pretty much the off season is when I do like resistance training and stuff. I went to the gym for hockey for the whole time I was growing up, so I despise going to the gym. So what I usually do is I do resistance training in the off season, and then just kind of body weight stuff. And then when it comes to the season, I'm not doing much working out. I'm mostly stretching, actually, is like keeping super loose, and then just lots of field work, right? Lots of field work. And I think really the best thing, right, is like I try to keep field work to like a minimum. I probably do it twice a week max. And then I want to play, if I'm playing a tournament, I try to get out to the course every day before that tournament. And then I usually take like Thursday off. So I play Monday through Wednesday.
Yeah.
Take off Thursday, and then go to the course wherever I'm traveling to, go to that course, play Friday, get a practice round in, or 2 courses, get 2 practice rounds in, play both courses. And then Saturday, Sunday, or Monday play play all the courses for the tournament. So yeah, it's also though, when you're playing a tournament, right, it's more, people don't realize how much mental it is, right? So it's like, I never really am thinking. I don't want to think when I'm at, that's why you play a practice round, right? You get your game plan beforehand,
Right.
and then you're worrying about what you're doing on the course from what you did the day before. Obviously the elements, wind and whatever can change, but that's experience, right? So that you're experiencing all that. If you have that experience, then it's 100% mental after that. And it's just, you're not worried about what you're throwing or how you're throwing. It's just, everything is just mental, and you just remembering and muscle memory pretty much, right? It's like, you just want to throw those shots that you know, and that your body pretty much knows. Yeah.
When you go out for a practice round, we had this discussion before, and it was been a bit of a not controversy, but kind of 50-50 split. Do you actually throw every shot that you're going to throw in the tournament on the hole? So like, you start at the hole, the tee, you throw your drive, your upshot, and then you putt out? Or do you not? Because somebody said that they don't bother with the drive because you know where you're going to land anyway. So you walk up to the middle of the fairway and play from there. My argument was, if you don't practice maybe this is a difference between an MA40 opinion, because we often end up in the trees or off the fairway, or we play those shots because that's where we might end up in a tournament. You're more than likely going to be in the fairway, or when you're playing your tournament, it's going to be where you want to land, right? So how do you approach the practice round?
I try to play every hole, right? I obviously, usually if I do shank one off the tee, I'm not going to try to play it out of the stuff, like out of the bushes or whatever. I'm going to kind of pull it out into the fairway and then throw. And then sometimes if I'm really worried about a hole, I throw even a couple shots on a hole, right?
Right.
So, and then obviously when it comes to putting, I'm trying to putt as much as I can the day before the tournament, just to get your rhythm down and everything. So
do you move around the tee pad? Do you kind of go to where you think that your upshot is always going to land? You kind of practice putts from there because that's more than likely, on the downslope sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I try to practice kind of where I'm thinking I'm going to land every time. So I usually try to carry 4 putters in my practice rounds, and then only 2 in my tournament rounds. But yeah, I try, like you said, I try to practice where I want to land pretty much every shot, or the more likely spot it's going to land, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I like what you're saying there, Casey, too, is by playing that course 2-3 days in a row and then taking that day off, it's almost like it feels like you're programming the computer for 3 days. Then you take a day off to relax and recover, and then now just go out and do it. Don't even think about it. Is that kind of, I'm catching that right?
Yeah. So most of the tournaments that I play now, like pretty much every tournament that I've played this year, or will be playing this year, I really don't even have to go play practice rounds on those courses,
right?
Because I've played them a bunch of times, right? So I can show up on the Friday night, go out for a practice round, and be super comfortable usually, right, on those courses, because I know them so well. Like Lethbridge, Spring Runoff, I went to school there for 7 years, so I know Nicholas Sharon very, very well, right? And then pretty much every course, like I'm trying to think, High Country is probably the only course this year where I'll have to go down probably 2 days early and be like, I'll have to practice it. So,
right.
Nice.
We did just have a question in the chat there, which is kind of leads on from what you were asking there, or you were talking about the practice. Brendan wanted to know, how has your practice changed over the time in disc golf? Like you mentioned about stretching in the off season and doing that sort of stuff. Has it always been that way, or a couple of years ago, were you doing any off season practice?
No. When I first started playing competitively, I wasn't doing anything in the off season. Like but as soon as I hit 30 years old, I was like, whoa, like I need to stretch, right? I need to work out. I need to kind of keep everything going, right? Because like you tighten up really quick.
Yeah. You're
really
preaching to
quick
the choir
after a
here, Casey.
3-round tournament on a weekend. That Monday, you're sore, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm usually that day after the Monday, if I'm not working, I'm usually stretching and getting everything worked out. So
Yeah.
Good. Well, Casey, thanks for giving us some information on that. But we do want to talk a little bit. You've got a couple sponsors, and we just, whenever we have somebody on, we want to make sure the sponsors get some time too. So you're with Prodigy, and we know you've been with them for a while, but I don't even know how long have you been with Prodigy?
This will be my fifth year, actually. This year will be my 5th year. I'm pretty sure. It's funny. It's funny because like I did a contract. Well, I obviously have a contract with them, but this year I thought my contract was up with them, and I messaged them, and they're like, "No, you still have one more year." And I was like, I was like, "Oh man." Like I felt so stupid for like messaging them and be like, I didn't even know if my contract's up or not. So
Right.
no, but Prodigy has been unbelievable. I have nothing but good things to say about them. They've supported me through my best disc golf, right? And I hope next year I get to sign with them again. And yeah, I'm excited actually. So we'll see what happens next year.
Well, and with you with Prodigy, and then you've also got Chantel Budinsky now with Prodigy, and she got elevated up to the top team as well. And I know you've done a lot, even just out here was when we did the Edmonton Open, the Bailey's disc that's behind me here. I don't know if it shows up, but is my A3 that we had that was stamped. And I wasn't throwing one before, but now Darryl and I both have learned to throw it because every single time we watch you on Park Pro coverage, I think it's like we can all just say it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Casey threw his A3 there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've done a lot for them for sure, and definitely promoted their discs as well.
Yeah, that their lineup, their approach disc lineup are definitely their best, right? Like the A2, A3, and A4, and the A5 now are, I think out of every disc lineup, all the disc lineups, like Discmania, everybody, Innova, that approach disc lineup from Prodigy is probably the best lineup or best approach disc in the game.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
Well, and Darryl, I think you and I have also noticed as well, like when it started out with just the A3 stamped on there and the F7 and that type of thing, that was really easy to understand. But we were at a tournament last year where we got one of the feedback discs
Kevin
with
Jones,
the cool. Whose disc was it again there, Darryl?
Kevin Jones.
Kevin Jones's disc, yeah. And so now we're getting those awesome stamps, and then there's the Mosoff design stamps as well in that. So they've just taken what was already a good disc, and now they're leveling it up for those people who want some beauty and aesthetic on them.
Yeah. And then like as well as like it was what they did with the NHL disc this year, right?
Yeah.
They're stepping up with what they're doing, their licensing and everything now. So it's that's why I'm so happy to be with them, right? They're always kind of trying to do something new and new and exciting.
Yeah.
And then also you were last year with Gander, but Gander Disc Golf, Calvin unfortunately had to close the doors there. And then we kind of were waiting to see what happened with all of the sponsored players, and Noah joined Disc Republic, but then you recently joined Limber. So that was pretty pumped. I was excited for that because this year I was nominated and very, very thankful to everybody who did, to be part of the Limber Pinecone team.
Nice.
So I'm a Limber Pinecone up in Edmonton, and I was already excited. I was already pumped. And then they put the announcement like Casey Hanemayer. Now with Limber, I'm like, how could it get even better?
Yeah. Is that like teammate status now, Jeremy?
Excited.
Yeah, at some level, like this level though.
No, Limber's like Calvin kind of got me in contact with them, and I was just gonna go without a retail sponsor this year because I was just like, yeah, Gander, like Calvin's such a good guy, right? And I didn't want to really go with anybody else, right? I was with Ace Runners when I first started, like first started. They were my actual first sponsor even before anything when it came to disc golf. And then went with Gander, and yeah, it was awesome, right? Like Calvin's such a good buddy of mine now, just from what he's done for me and disc golf in Edmonton and Alberta. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't going to get a sponsor this year. And then Calvin kind of put me in touch with Limber and yeah, he's a very similar style of person. He's no bullshit. We'll get stuff done. And what he's done with his store there, like in Calgary, is super, super cool. If anybody wondering what disc golf store you should go to, is go to Limber in Calgary. It is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah,
we
we're
hope
pretty
to stop.
excited.
Yeah, we're going to stop down there on the way because we're hoping. Well, we are going down to spring runoff this year, so we're going to make a trip over to Limber for sure.
Sweet.
Yeah, I was thinking anytime you can have a beer and look at discs at the same time, how do you go wrong, right?
Yeah. No, speaking of that, so that it was kind of a co-sponsorship with Limber and Cold Garden actually. So they're both sponsoring me this year because well obviously they all kind of know because that's what they sell in the stores of all their Cold Garden beer. So
so you have a beer sponsor is what you're telling me.
Beer sponsor as well.
You know how to do it right, Casey. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I can't say enough about Cold Garden as well. They gave me, everybody got a beer in their players packs this year. So
that's awesome.
That's the thing, right? It's like nobody will say no to a free beer in a players pack. So
yeah, what's in the players pack? I don't care about the disc. Oh, I don't care about the sticker. Oh, there's a beer in there. I'm coming.
Jeremy, next year it's got to be on our list to go to Rocket Bear because beer and pizza and disc golf. I'm sold.
Yeah, you're hitting us right here.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't know. Maybe next year you'll actually get trophies, so there won't be a pizza party. But who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah.
That actually another funny thing. So Encore Brewing here in Cranbrook, he wants to sponsor he sponsors the Kootenay Up and Down already. So and that's where I took everybody for pizza. Beer and pizza was at Encore. So, and he's an avid disc golfer here in Cranbrook, so he wants to be more involved in it. And I was like, I won't say no, right? Everybody loves beer and pizza.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to flash back, Darryl, was just when we were talking about Australia and Perth. Well, Perth is kind of like a desert, and Australia is kind of like an island.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to catch up on any of our episodes, Casey, but it's a bit of a staple of our show.
Now it's time for Desert Island Discs. Picture this. You've taken a relaxing cruise, however the ship goes down. You manage to swim to an island, and fortunately for you, there's an 18-hole disc golf course. Which 3 discs are you taking with you on the island?
Like we said, it's kind of a staple on our show. The whole fictitious island has changed over time, but maybe you're taking a cruise. Maybe you're scared of flying and you're taking a cruise to Australia. You have to set off somewhat early, but you're on this cruise. You're going to this island. It goes down. You've only take 3 discs with you to this disc golf course. Which 3 discs are you taking with you?
Well, we talked about it, the A3, obviously, right?
It's got to be.
And then for a distance driver, I probably would take a D3.
Okay.
And then obviously it's been my putter since I started with Prodigy, the P Model S. So those 3.
Nice.
There you go.
I love it when someone knows exactly what they're taking. Hey, Darryl?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of slanted a little bit, the fact that we have a Prodigy sponsored tour player here. So we were never going to get anything else other than that. But yeah, he knows his bag well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And also with that too, is like we've had it before where people pick the same disc. So I was ready for you to say, well, first I'll take an A3 in 400, then I'll take an A3 in 750. And then by the time we were done, you had 3 A3s. I could putt with an A3. I can drive with an A3.
Well, and I probably could, right? Because I should probably just take an A3 in base plastic, right? A beat up one that flies straight.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, like I take a 500 one. That's kind of that 500 one right now that I have is very beat up. So that's like neutral to stable. And then I would take a 750 A3. That's very stable. So
that's awesome.
I've asked people this before when they talk about discs that they have in their bag and how beat up they get. How often, with you being sponsored by Prodigy, how often are you replacing your discs?
So the discs, usually the throwers that I have, I don't replace them that often at all. Actually, they kind of hopefully they get to a certain beat in state that they just stay there.
Right.
I do have a PA1 that is like just starting to get over the top of too beat up, starting to
Right.
flip over too much. So I might be switching that out pretty soon. But the only discs I actually switch out a bunch are my putters, my P Model S's. So
Okay.
they probably last about a month and a half, 2 months, and then it's kind of like onto a new pair.
Okay. That's interesting.
Nice. Well, you'd mentioned you're going to be at spring runoff, so we're excited to see you down there for sure. Now, the one thing we know that you've gone down to a few pro tour events in the past. Is that something that you want to do more as it could fit? Like if Prodigy said, "Hey, we'll help you get down to this pro tour event," would that be something you'd be wanting to do?
I don't know. I kind of it's funny to say, but like I tried to do it, and I can say that I did it. It's just like if I was 20 still, yes, I would definitely go down and play, right? I would actually go down and tour for sure. But it's just like I got a fiance, right? I might be buying a house this summer. It's not
You've got
really on my
life.
radar anymore, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just happy that I did it the one summer. I think I played 6 tour events and then a few other big tournaments down in the States. And it was a lot, right? Like driving, people don't understand. Like
Yeah.
the US is a big place, right? Like people don't understand. That's a lot of driving, right? You're playing 3 rounds of disc golf, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or 4 rounds, depending what tournament it is.
Yeah.
And then you're getting in your car, driving like however long, 13, 14 hours. And then you're doing the exact same thing again, right? It's like people don't realize it's a grind, right? It's people thinks it's all sunshine and rainbows. Is like they get there, they get to stay in their hotel room. Is like, no, those guys are out, they drive, they get out of their car, work out, maybe stretch, and then they go play again. Like it's instant. That's all you're doing, right? So it was a lot, but like I said, if I was 20 again, I definitely would do that. But yeah, it's just I'm too old now. I keep saying that to everybody who asks me the question. It's like I actually am. Like everybody kind of sees how like a couple of the old guys are playing good still, like Simon Eagle, like I think he might be done, right? Like with his injuries and everything.
Yeah.
Calvin, he's up there, but those guys are the old guard now, right? Everybody is like, they've been playing on that tour for 15 years, right? It's like, everybody thinks those guys are so young. It's like, no, there's the reason why Gannonburr, Anthony Barella, all those young guys are coming up now. It's like, those guys are the young guys, right? They're coming up. They have the energy to just do it every single weekend. So, yeah.
Unless you're lucky enough to put yourself in a position maybe like Yuli or Big Germ or something like that where they can fly in and fly out. But even then, like you think, okay, they're not driving, but they're grinding with all their Jomez work and they're commentating and practice rounds and and then here, go out and play a round and hopefully it's a good round, but it's probably not the one that you're happy about. And then why don't you go sit and sign discs for an hour and a half and visit with people when you're in probably not the best mood, and then get up in the morning and do it all over again, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the travel there. I know Thomas put a post out on Instagram at the beginning of the year. It was kind of a reflection on the previous year, and it was kind of a map, and it was how much driving an airplane to this airport, drive, I'm assuming he's picking up rental cars, drive to the course, drive back, fly to here, drive to this one, drive across. And it was just amazing at how much traveling, we just watched the coverage and we see, oh, he's at DDO this weekend, oh, he's at whatever tournament is next, and through the season we just see them show up, but we don't realize the driving and the flying and the the late nights and everything else that goes into it. So yeah, I can definitely imagine it's a bit of a grind. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Casey, we are so happy that you were able to join us and we want to thank you for that. But before we get ready to let you go here, we just wanted to give you a minute. If there was anything that we didn't talk about or something that you wanted to shout out or make sure that our listeners knew about, then this is your time and go right ahead.
Yeah, if you want to support me this year, obviously get some Team Canada discs for the travel to Australia, like we talked about before. But yeah, if you see me at any of the tournaments, actually, just I'll have my I'll have my Rocket Bear disc for sale, and yeah, I'll like to shout out my actual one more sponsor that I have, FlexZone Disc Golf out of Quebec. They make that kind of the foam minis, so they're minis and knee pads. So I'll have those for sale as well. Yeah, so if you want to support me this summer, just come get in contact with me because I can ship stuff to you, or come talk to me if you see me at a tournament.
Perfect. Well, Casey, we've got a lot of Edmonton listeners, and a lot of them are heading down to spring runoff. So I'm sure you'll be seeing a number of us, and probably with Sharpies in hand as well, if we can do that to you too. So
yeah.
Nice.
Well, we got
well,
a few questions in the chat here. If you don't mind bearing with us for a few more minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
So Mark in the chat wants to know if is there any one tournament you haven't gotten to play yet? Which one is it and why?
That is a good question. So I think I probably want to play MVP. I think somebody mentioned it when we were talking about it. And it's just because of the course, right? Maple Hill.
Yeah.
I just want to play. And that's the thing. Like, I don't even really need to play the MVP Open. I just want to play a tournament there, right? Like, I just want to play competitive, like super competitive round that means something at that course. So yeah, no, MVP or the Beast in Finland.
nice.
Yeah.
Is that just because the course, or just because it's in Finland?
No, just because of the course.
Yeah.
Just the course, because I don't think actually it's up when they don't play the European Open. I'm pretty sure they just put it up for the European Open. So
yeah,
gotcha. Well, the one thing I think when I think about Maple Hill is that you've got Nick and Matt with their podcast. They're out in that range. You got Casey White out there. You've got Simon out there. I'm sure if you let them know you were coming out, you could put together a couple foursomes in a nice competitive, maybe for beers and pizza, something like that, and and have just as much competition as you would in any other tournament.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, it wouldn't. I don't think it would take much. You just message. I know Casey fairly well since we have the same name, and we have played a couple rounds together on the Pro Tour when I did go down. So
yeah. Oh, sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Darryl.
Yeah, we have one more question here, and I'm gonna read it as it says it because it doesn't quite make sense, the wording. It's from Philippe. Does a Canadian disc golf tour possible with travel in Canada?
Oh, and I think we kind of touched on that a bit. Just, is it actually possible to do? Like, we've been, it's happening right now. Is it truly feasible?
Right. For somebody in the West Coast to travel to East and East to West and things like that. Yeah. And we kind of touched on that a bit earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I did it. I pretty much did it last year, right? Like, it is feasible, but for a normal everyday disc golfer, probably not, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to do it, like if you want to spend the money and do it, you can. It is there. Like if you go, I don't know if I would assume Park Pro has it on their website what tournaments they're going to. So
don't think they've actually released it yet, have they, Jeremy?
I don't know.
Well, and I think what you're saying too with it, Casey, is that, like, when you look at what we've got, we're talking about maybe 9 events throughout the year, which can really be, if they're spaced out properly, 1 a month. So if a person is saving money or maybe has a sponsor who can help support them in that, it's not like they're having to drive all the way across. So it would have to be likely done with flights for anybody west going east or east coming west. But then within your side of the country, you should be able to drive the rest of them. So there is a more feasible, if it was every week in a row, I don't think it could happen, but the fact that it's spread out, it should be more attainable.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah.
One last question I have for you, and Jeremy, feel free to take off your headphones at this point. So on the Chain Out podcast, we are going to be doing some sort of fantasy league for the Canadian Tour. What that looks like this year. We might just be doing the A tiers. So we were going to be picking by the tournament. So not just the whole tour, not picking a team for the whole season, but just tournament by tournament. Do you have any sleeper picks of pros on the tour that maybe we're not more familiar with?
Well, I think what Darryl's asking is, after I pick you, Casey, who's he going to pick after that?
Well, obviously,
and don't
Thomas,
say Ben.
Right? Yeah. Don't say Ben. Yeah. Obviously, Thomas, because I think he is trying to play. I'm pretty sure he's playing every Western tournament this year on the tour. So
okay,
I'm pretty sure he actually, because I'm not going to TCO, so he's actually playing more of the West Coast tournaments than I am. So, right. Yeah, obviously Thomas, and then I think Noah is trying to get to a lot of the ones too. So, right. Yeah, don't count either of those guys out, right? So
yeah, no, absolutely.
You got a good chance to see Kalen too. Is he's an up and comer as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's awesome. And I hope he has such a good head on his shoulders. He's a great player, and I hope obviously that for him, he's an Ontario boy, and he's not going to make it to Canadian Nationals or any of the West Coast tournaments here. But
yeah,
I hope he gives all the top pros on the East Coast a run for their money this year, for sure.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, Casey, we are so thankful for all the time that you've given us. We appreciate having you on your show. Looking in here in the listener questions and comments, it's just been buzzing the whole time. So we know that everybody's happy to have you as well. We can't wait to meet you down at Spring Runoff. Maybe when we're passing through Calgary, if we cross paths, we'll have that beer at Limber. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks. We appreciate it.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Darryl, 24 episodes in, and we've talked to the Canadian Disc Golf Tour winner and Canadian Nationals winner.
Yeah.
On the MPO side. And then, of course, we talked to Colleen there, and she was the highest Canadian Nationals female playing. What is going on, man? This is amazing.
We're only 24 episodes in.
Yeah.
Should I do it again? It's funny when we start. No, don't do it again.
24, cousin, coming fresh from the oven.
Anybody that joined late, that's what you missed. Yeah, no, when we first started, we had the vision. Well, I had that vision of by the end of the year, by after the first year, maybe we will, maybe look at getting Casey. Thomas and Chantel, they were a long way away because we figured that they were the out of our reach sort of thing. But 24 episodes in, we've already, like you said, interviewed the arguably number one female in FPO in Canada, arguably the number one MPO in Canada.
It's amazing.
Is that it? Have we peaked now?
That's it. Signing off. Last episode. See you later. We did everything we set out to do. Maybe not. We've got a lot more.
Exactly.
We can do,
like we said before, we're not just about getting the big names or anything like that. Next week, we'll be quite happy to go back and interview, any local MPO, FPO player just to get an insight. It doesn't even have to be the players. We're always interested in, and we're talking about it. We're going to get a TD episode sometime in the future. We've already had Brendan on from BR, the disc golf owner, disc golf designer, course designer. Yeah.
We've talked about, we want to get some juniors on the show because we haven't talked to any of them yet. And we know there's a lot of good ones out there. Gavin, if you're listening, buddy, we've got you on the list.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So no, definitely. That's it. Now we should take a moment here and just put this out quick. Or go ahead.
For it. No, because I think you're going to say what I'm going to say. So
I was going to say, one of the things is, if you do like the content that we're putting out and you enjoy it, please subscribe to the channel. Please follow us, rate, review, all of those good things. Anytime you can do that for us or ask your friends or anyone, it helps us out and we appreciate it. So thank you so much. Now, what were you going to say?
Well, Brendan did mention that we're averaging 6 new subs per episode. Not that anyone's counting,
Nice.
but yeah, that's awesome. What I was going to say was we mentioned about all the guests that we've had and our future guests that we're hoping to go and get. And I mentioned it kind of in the end of last episode, but one, who do you want us to interview? Put out some names and anybody that you want us to anybody you want to hear from and want us to interview, let them know or tag them in Instagram, tag us in Instagram, and we'll see what we can do. And then also that we mentioned about how does everybody feel if we reached outside of Canada to maybe try and get some south of the border pros or even European pros.
Yes, to try and
How
have
does
them
everybody
on,
feel
and
about that? Like, we
definitely,
don't want to forget our roots, like I said in the last episode, but yeah, we would always tie it back to Canada somehow. But would everybody like to hear from other people? Let us know.
yeah,
Because we would
that's
definitely
it.
like to
It's
speak
always going to
to,
have a chain out spin on it, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds doesn't play disc golf as far as I know, Mark. So
Well, we could ask him. He's
he's
Canadian.
Canadian. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Maybe
would
you
be
could even
cool.
do it in Deadpool setup or something like that too. Are we
Yeah.
asking too much?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, Darryl, I was telling you earlier that my arm was sore. How is
Yeah.
yours feeling? Yes, Voltaren, not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
But it
Yeah.
could have been a sponsor of the event over the
It
weekend.
needed to be a sponsor because I don't know if you used it, but I definitely used it after round one. Yeah. Bit of a recap of what we did on the weekend, on the Sunday. We played in the AlBERGa tournament. It's supposed to be at the Wildman Disc Golf Course. Some plans got changed, so it ended up being moved to Niska Paskwahk.
Paskwahk.
It was close enough.
You were close.
I should have just stopped at Niska, but I thought I'll add the P on there. Yeah, no, we had a great time out there. I don't know how many people we had in the end. Do you know the final total of how many people were registered out there?
Well, I'm pretty sure we had 9 holes with cards.
Some of them
on.
had 4, some of them had 3. So
It would be
yeah,
probably
but we had
about
quite a few people
36
out
or
there.
so. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were lucky enough to be paired on the same card. Me, you, and friend of the show, Mark. We were also joined by Kevin Pattinson, who plays in the Rundle League as well, and a local Edmonton disc golfer. So we started out with that round, and we started on hole 4, if anybody knows Niska. And things didn't go. I mean, it certainly came to fruition of how hard the competition was going to be when you have to throw a berg on every shot on every hole.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it really did come around on that. And it was some people had more bergs than others. A person like myself, it was very easy. I had 2 bergs. I had a glow berg and a K3 hard. And I called one my driving berg and one my putting berg. And that's all I had to worry about. Other people, maybe even co-hosts of this podcast, had a couple more than 2.
Yeah. Which probably
And
made it
then
worse because I carried all those discs and I think I ended up only using 4. But I did, yeah, you're right. I had my driving berg, I had my upshot berg, and I had my putting berg. And then I had a overstable berg X for when I needed it.
Well, and did you learn out of it? Like, well, obviously we learned that Gabe is the champion of Alberta.
Yeah. Well, just to put it in perspective, I know, by the time we finished, me, you, and Mark were sitting at +3, +4, +5, I think.
Right.
And before the tournament, Tim Plamondon was speaking, asking what we think the winning score is going to be, and there was a range of numbers from -4, -5. Somebody said -6. I think Tim said it'll be lucky if we see like a -3, -4. And then Gabe said, "No, I don't believe any of that," and went ahead and shot a -11.
Yes.
-11 with a berg only over 2 rounds of disc golf. The only player to take less than 100 strokes. He did it in 99 strokes.
And unlike me, I think he did it without a roller. As far as I'm sure he was probably throwing the disc the whole time. My arm started getting tired, and I'm like, forehand roller, forehand roller, forehand roller.
But it was working for you.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, as you like to say, the berg is like a tire.
It does. When you get it rolling, it goes.
Yeah.
But I think that was a great event. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that Matt Lalesher, Wildman, put it together there with Tim and EDGA. And I think I could see doing that again, or even doing it with a different disc, like still a one only disc. Like, you know how much I like my hexes. I could do it with that.
People were talking about that. I heard that different names and different discs being floated around. And I think I think. Oh, actually, sorry.
I value your opinion, but you're wrong.
I think
it's been
the
a while
fact-
since you put that
It's
one
been a
out
while
there.
since I've had a chance to use it. I think the thing that makes the Berg and that tournament so great is because it's not the disc that you can get to every shot. If you play with a hex, there wouldn't be any challenge because you could probably reach the majority of the baskets. I mean, that, like you said,
could.
What did I learn from playing those 2 rounds was I may as well throw all of my distance drivers out and just go with my Berg, because a lot of the upshots I was getting pretty close with just my Berg.
Right.
So if you had a hex, you could easily reach most of the baskets, I would say, because we were almost reaching. We were only, half, sometimes 3/4 of the way down the fairway with just a Berg only. So
Yeah.
if you had a hex, I think it takes out the novelty of the event.
That's a
my
fair
personal
point.
opinion. Yeah.
Well, and I think with the Bergs as well was that what I learned was that I can score a pretty good round with just a Berg, because scoring a +1 at Niska, I was pretty impressed with myself on that. Even the +3 I shot the first round, still
Yeah.
happy with that. So
Yeah, I've done worse than that with my full bag.
yeah. And I don't know about you, but did you have one shot that shanked way left or way right? I don't think I had one. I think
No,
everything was straight down the middle.
that is what really surprised me, is that I was able to control the Berg.
Mm-hmm.
It was straight down the fairway, straight flyer. If you put it on hyzer, it held that line. Yeah, there was no real, the only thing that I think that did surprise me a little bit is that some upshots where we went past the basket, because we were thinking
Right.
that the Berg with the one glide, we're going to have to throw it as hard as we could. But in some instances, we were actually going past the basket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it was a great event, and thanks again for everybody putting it on, and congratulations to Gabe. And if you do it again next year, I'm sure we'll be part of it, won't we?
Oh, we'll be part of it. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, you getting your first ace with a Berg, competing in a Berg tournament, having 8 Bergs in your bag, I think that was probably a rhetorical question asking if you'd be there next year.
Even though I said I was, no, I shouldn't say that. What else are we going to talk about?
Well, the other thing we wanted to talk about was about some of the tournaments and the registrations coming up. So one of the things of a tournament that's actually happened, so let's start there, is the doubles tournament happened the day before AlBERGa.
Yep.
And we ended up having enough players.
That was
and
the
teams,
US doubles DGC qualifier.
USDGC doubles qualifier.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was actually enough teams for 3 teams to go down there. So, our good buddy Mark and Tyler Edwards was in it. They didn't play as well as they wanted to. It was quite windy, but they were still, I was giving them the props that they were over the halfway mark out of all the teams. So that was
need to
awesome.
justify it for them.
Yeah.
Mark's already been in the chat calling us wimps, so he didn't qualify.
So I shouldn't pump him up at all?
No.
Okay. And then what we also know too, though, is a couple guys from Red Deer came up. I think they got 3rd, if I remember. And was it the Grand Prairie guys that got 1st?
No, Red Deer got 2nd, I think. Calgary got 3rd.
No, they one of them got 1st, one of them got 2nd, because it was
Matt Dwyer and Scott Brimacombe got 3rd.
They were in there too. So anyways, we had Scott Brimacombe and Matt Dwyer. Yeah. And they've already said that they are going to go down to USDGC. They're both planning to do it. So that's exciting. So we'll actually have Edmonton players down at USDGC competing in the doubles championship.
Yeah.
On the USDGC course, like set up for the tournament.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that we were all asking, is that if anybody actually did win, were they actually going to go down to participate in the tournament? Because it's almost like a wasted opportunity if you were going to go for it and if you win and you don't go down. Brock saying Calgary was 1st.
Yes.
Red Deer must have been 2nd.
Thanks, Brock.
And then Matt and Scott were 3rd. But yeah. So that's what happened the day before.
And then, so that was a tournament that's just happened. So thanks a lot to Brock for putting that together and making that opportunity possible. Yeah. And then we've got this weekend, which we've been pumping as much and as often as we can. So we'll pump it one more time. Is She's Up First is on Saturday.
Yeah.
Now go ahead.
Happening at Hermitage. Yeah. Kristen Swirls TD.
And with that, show up on Friday, 6:30 at Hermitage at the gazebos, the picnic gazebos by the course, because there's going to be bingo, there's going to be beer. kind of a social event there that first night, and then show back up. Even if you're not playing in the tournament, show up either to support the people playing in the tournament or show up to buy discs, because Wildman will be there, JK Discs will be there, Terry will be there. Kevin's going to be there with his minis as well. So that's another opportunity too. So that's the wooden minis that we've shown you on the show before.
Yeah. Lots of reasons to show up.
Yeah. So that's right. And then the other thing we have to shout out is that probably guaranteed got to be one of the most popular tournaments in Alberta right now, or one of the most well attended or the busiest. You can put a lot of different numbers on it, but that's Falcon's Flight. And Falcon's Flight is down in the Calgary area, and registration has just opened.
Yeah.
And it's the registration for
FPO and juniors.
For women. Yeah. The women divisions and then the junior divisions as well is opened up. So those are the ones. So if you're a woman looking to play Falcon's Flight, or if you're a junior, it's open right now. Get your registration in, and then keep an eye out because the other registrations will be rolling. We're going to have a sponsors one. So if you want to do $50 for a sponsor, Falcon's Flight will have that open. And then after that, it's going to be open registration. And Darryl and I have been practicing on our phones on Disc Golf Scene, putting everything in, linking it to PayPal, doing it as quick as we can. You have a shirt that has your PDGA number on it, so you'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. Have that all set up and ready to go.
So hopefully we'll be able to get down to Falcon's Flight, but definitely try to get in there if you can. It's going to be an awesome tournament.
Yeah, that's what we hear, right? It's just more. It's more than just a round of disc golf. It's an event. It's a weekend. It's a whole host of things.
Yep. You'll laugh. You'll cry. You'll fall in love. I don't know what will happen, but that's all the things that everybody who goes kind of makes it out to be. So I hope it delivers for us as well.
The other thing to mention as well about Falcon's Flight is it's also a stop on the Masters Tour this year as well.
Yeah, that's right. One of 2 Canadian stops. So that's a tour that's all in the US for Masters. So some of the players who have left the Disc Golf Pro Tour are now starting to find their way onto that Masters Tour.
Yeah.
So you could have some names at Falcon's Flight that you may not have been familiar with before, or you're familiar with, but have not seen come up to Canada. Exactly. And then the other thing I saw too, Darryl, is that they said there's $10,000 added cash to the tournament. So anybody who's on the pro side, there's going to be a lot of extra money to try and attract some of those names.
Yeah. Well, that's what comes back to what Casey was saying, right? About getting people to come to these events is getting that added cash, getting it well sponsored.
For sure. And then, you know how we like to finish off the show, not the way that you think we like to finish off the show. But before that, we always got to talk about the Canadian pros who are down on the Disc Golf Pro Tour.
Yeah.
So this past week was Champions Cup.
Right. Yep. First major.
We had Champions Cup. It was the first major of the year, one of the 4-day events where you got 3 days of playing, and then you got a cut, and then you got the last day.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
we had some representation down there, but it didn't, I mean, it's a hard course to play anyway. And yeah, we had some representation down there on the MPO side. We had Thomas Gilbert and Max. Obviously, Max Regitnig was down there as well. Things didn't go according to how they would have liked it. Probably not the way their game plan had been lined up, but Thomas missed the cut. He finished in 89th. And Max also missed the cut. He was at 90th, but at least he can say that he was tied with Eagle McMahon in a major.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing to be able to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then as well, Chantel was down.
It doesn't matter what year. I was tied with Eagle McMahon.
And then I guess for that matter, if at 89th, one place above, Thomas can say, yeah, I beat Eagle McMahon.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then Chantel was there as well.
Chantel was there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she tied for 32nd place, which was again missing the cut on the FPO side. But 32nd was tied with Haley King.
Yeah.
And Jessica Weiss. So again, like she's right up there.
Yeah. Yeah. And just goes to show you what a hard course and what a hard weekend it was.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the coverage. The conditions were not good. They had delays. Yeah.
I think some of the players actually ended up having to play either part of a round or play 2 rounds in a day.
Yeah, it was like 30 holes because they played 2 holes on the Friday, no, on the Saturday, and then on the Friday. They finished 2 holes on the Friday, and they had to come back for 16 on the Saturday morning at 6:45, and then they finished off, had an hour to sleep or whatever it might have been, get some rest and relaxation, and then back out for another 18 on a hard course in the afternoon as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's impressive for sure. So
Yeah.
good for them. Well, the next tournament down there on the DGPT is the DDO
Yeah.
so that's the Dynamic Discs Open
Yep.
in Emporia in Kansas.
Yep. And on that, Thomas is going to be the only Canadian representing on that event.
Yeah. So that's what you can stay tuned for this week. If you are watching any of the DGPT coverage, then that's who you're looking for, is watching for Thomas. He's the one guy who will be out there.
Yeah.
So I think that covers everything I got to talk about. What about you?
Yeah, let's quickly check the chat to make sure no one has any questions for us. Ryan Reynolds, Nolan, and Gavin, people want us to talk to. We've got Gavin already lined up sometime in the future. Stay tuned for that one. We'll be getting him on with some other of his friends, some other juniors, to do that kind of episode. Kevin wants us to interview Bill Nye.
Oh, he's a big disc golfer.
He is, yeah. That would be a good name. And
Darryl, Bill Nye just put out a video, I think, or a YouTube where he's discussing the science of the flight of a disc.
Awesome.
So for my little geeky side, I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah. If, out of all these celebrities, I know people have, his name has come up before, but when you start talking about who likes disc golf and who is a celebrity, and people say Bert Kreischer, okay, he likes disc golf. He would be an awesome guest on a podcast. What's the likelihood that we're going to interview Bert Kreischer? Probably slim to none.
Working on it.
We're working on it. But Bill Nye, I could definitely see him being like, sure, I'll come on your podcast. I'll talk about that. That'd be awesome.
Yep. There you go.
Somebody saying also a glitch Niska round would be interesting as well. So
totally up for that.
There you go. Thanks, everybody.
But before we leave, we need a secret word.
I was just getting there, Jeremy. We can't leave.
Okay,
just yet.
I just don't want us to skip it. We've skipped it before.
No, we're not going to skip it. We're not going to forget. Anybody got any recommendations for the secret word?
People I already know listening. What I think.
Oh, you do? Oh, are you going to say Rocket Bear?
Yeah. But I want to see it in like Rocket Bear burning up the hill.
I was going to say, if anybody can put that in the chat, but then people can just Google it. Does anybody actually know what those lyrics are?
Burning up here all alone or something. Burning with the phone home. That's ET.
Phone home.
But yes, so Rocket Bear,
we're going Rocket Bear
suggestion.
Then. We've made the decision. What's that?
Have we made it?
Well, I thought you made it.
No. Otherwise, it's like
we want to throw it
2
out
dozen cousin.
With the remaining people in the chat, are you happy with Rocket Bear? Let us know. This is the downside of going live on Instagram is we ask a question and then there's 10-15 seconds of us eagerly waiting for the reply to come back.
That's right. But the one thing that I love is anybody who's still listening, they've got it. They can put it in the comments. We can have some fun with it.
Do you think anyone's still listening at this point, Jeremy? Not everyone just not turned off by now? Is it just me just talking to you?
Not with our beautiful voices, right? Talking about singing Rocket Bear? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Elton John would be proud of us.
I'm not going to say exactly, but just because we're teasing things, sometime in the future, maybe next week, maybe the week after, you never know. Don't forget to tune into YouTube. Maybe a little bit before 7:15, because there may be a little surprise for you. That's all I'm going to say for the last people that are watching.
And I will tell you,
because I'm a Rocket Bear burning out his fuse up here alone.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
I did have.
Well, Darryl,
5 years ago. Yeah.
You kind of teased it there. I want to tell the listeners a little more to that teaser. I personally have had a bit of experience with what Darryl's talking about, this potential early before the show surprise, and you are not going to want to miss it. It's going to be amazing. So
Ooh,
I'm
interesting. What
hyping
could
it up
be?
because it is that great. I'm telling you.
I'll be interested to see what you're going to do, Jeremy. Okay, Rocket Bear. We've been going for almost 2 hours. Casey was a brilliant guest. I don't know about you, but I enjoyed talking to him. Just getting every listening to everybody's different origin story, where they come from, how they got into disc golf. There's some similarities between people, but everybody seems to have their own little twist on it. It was a great
And I
episode,
think
Jeremy.
I think to finish it off, Darryl, you should tell us what's going to happen on hole 5 this week at Rundle League, which is tomorrow night. You're going to step up for a repeat performance.
I'm not going to be wearing the same shirt because I'm wearing it tonight. So I've got a new shirt for tomorrow. So anybody that comes out to Rundle will see me in another new shirt. But I'm going to, and when I got back from the round, I got back up to hole 13, which was the end of the round. I spoke to Tim and I showed him the disc, and I got you and Mark to sign it. And if we bump into Devin again, you'll have to point him out to me because I totally forget what he looks like. But I need to get him to sign the disc. But he asked me whether I was going to retire it or whether I was going to keep it in my bag. So maybe I might just bring it out on hole 5 again. Maybe the wind will be in the same direction. Maybe the clouds will just be parting over the full moon, and a wolf will howl in the background. I'll take my disc. I'll pick the same hyzer line. I'll throw it out to the right-hand side. I'll show Mark how to do it. I'll throw it out to the right-hand side. It'll go up into the wind. It'll flip over, or it'll turn over just a little bit. It'll catch some fade. The wind will hit the bottom plate. It'll come straight down towards that basket. It's going to hit those chains. It knows where its home is. But you know what's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
That disc is going to
chain out!
Jeremy, stop it. Okay, thanks everybody.
We'll catch you next week. See you tomorrow.